Hi, thanks for joining Savvy Social Mind Mastermind Group. We are so excited tonight to bring to you Dr. Kevin Snyder. He is a motivational speaker, an author with a passion for helping individuals identify and live their passion to lead fulfilling lives. Kevin is most commonly asked to keynote presentations for business sales teams, corporate annual meetings, colleges, and association conventions. As he was building his speaking business, Kevin formerly held a career in university student affairs and most recently served as the Dean of Students for High Point University. His master's and doctorate degrees were both earned in educational leadership. Through his motivational speaking career, Kevin has presented nearly 1,000 keynotes and leadership seminars for organizations and conferences in all 50 states and numerous countries. Clients span practically every industry, including sales organizations, healthcare, government, direct marketing, hundreds of associations, over 300 colleges and universities. Specific corporate organizations he's spoken to include Anheuser-Busch, Caterpillar, St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, the American Marketing Association, the Association of Circuses, and many others. Kevin was honored by the TEDx in 2013 to present the Ripple Effect, which was the largest TEDx event in the South. He currently serves as the organizer and curator for TEDx Raleigh and as a speaker coach for TEDx High Point. A fun fact about Kevin, although he's a horrible golfer, he's an author of several books, editor and contributing author to the newly released Empower Your Employees, an adjunct faculty member with the Center for Creative Leadership, a certified skydiver, scuba diver, sailing enthusiast, and game show winner of TV's The Price is Right. So here with us tonight is a treat, and I welcome Dr. Kevin Snyder.
Yay! Thank you, Christina, and thank you, Kim, and the Savvy Mastermind Group, and thanks to all of you who investing some valuable time to tune in and learn a little bit about social media, how we're going to build our followers, how we're going to engage them, and ultimately how that's going to lead to better business. So if I were speaking to you right now on a platform stage, if I would say, if that sounds good, say yes.
Yes.
You would repeat yes. You would repeat yes. And we're going to have a little bit of fun. So I've got about 10 PowerPoint slides I'm going to show you. Not many. We're going to have a conversation. And my hope with this is that you're going to have practical ideas that you can immediately take away and implement for your business. So as we get started, for those of you who heard, my profession and my craft is in speaking, not in social media. However, as a speaker, I utilize and leverage my social media connections in a way that is what I hope content rich, but it always funnels into my business of speaking. Tonight, again, it's about practical ideas that have worked for me, and I believe that they can work for you as well. What I'll share with you is relatively universal, and I'm pretty convicted that it can be applied to any industry or profession. So whether you're a social media expert or not, whether you own your own business, are looking to be employed, or are employed by a major company, what I'm going to share with you applies to all. So if it works for me, then I believe it can work for you as well. So thanks again for this opportunity, and we're about ready to get started on the hangout here. So our purpose, I've shared it with you, practical ideas for you to tailor implement that will build your social media presence and your followers, to engage them and to enhance your business results. That's my purpose. Some of you've gotten on this call, on this cast, for a variety of reasons. And for that, it's important for me to know, what is your purpose? What is it that you would like to ask specifically? So feel free, whenever since this is a recording, you can contact me. Here is my email address as well as my website. Contact me with any question you might have. I'll be glad to help and make sense out of anything that might seem a little confusing. But ultimately, tonight's about you. And frankly, you'll hear me say this one or two times tonight, in the spirit of American Idol, to be a little Simon Cowell on you. Sometimes I'm going to say things that are rather to the point, and I think it's important that things be heard that way sometimes, rather than maybe a little bit more sugar-coated. And in this concept, to ask a question, frankly, if you don't already have a question about social media in some way, then I'm wondering why you're on this call. Because the point is, if you can make the next few minutes about you, think about what I can share that how can be applied to you and how you can tailor that. So it's important that you think about what questions that you might have and how we can help. Tonight's focus, as we really look at the lens of how we're going to build and engage our social media presence, is going to be focused on these 3 platforms. Sure, there are others. In fact, we're even on one, Google Hangout. We could talk about many others, but the 3 that I've focused on that I use most regularly are these 3 here. And I'm not going to talk about why it's important to be utilizing these platforms on a daily basis. If you're not, you should be. In fact, if you're not, you're missing out, and your business is missing out on its full potential. So for each of these 3 platforms here, I'm going to provide, again, some practical strategies, both on and off what I consider to be called the keynote platform stage, that have built my social media presence and how it's literally led to more business for me, both immediate and in referral. I want to address a thought real quick that some of you might already have, and it's about numbers versus relationships. You know, some of you might be saying, well, it's not about how many Twitter followers you have or how many LinkedIn connections you have. Well, really? How's that mindset working? If that's really what you think, chances are it's probably not. But it doesn't have to be a dichotomous or an either-or relationship. I believe you can and you should strive to have both. Of course, business is about relationships. People do business with people that they like and they trust. But I believe we should strive for both. Your business actually is about numbers, your bottom line. So of course, numbers are also important. And whether those are in dollars or Twitter followers or LinkedIn connections, we can leverage all the above for business. So I'm getting off my soapbox, and I just needed to address that, what I would say, elephant in the room a little bit, because numbers are important, so are relationships. Let's focus on both. Now, as we get into the gravy of building social media presence, there's 2 concepts that are essential for you to understand, and they are most of what I see people struggle with. With some of my coaching clients who desire to be speakers or write a book, I see this in them as well, and how they struggle with this question. And as it relates to building a social media presence, ask yourself this: why should people follow me? What reason do you give people for wanting to follow or connect with you? So I want everybody, ask yourself this question right now. Why should they follow me? If your goal is to build more followers, and we'll talk about engagement in just a second, but first we have to talk about how to build followers. You have to ask yourself, why should they follow me? And the source of that answer in its purest form, the pure alchemy behind it, is answering a follow-up question for this, and that is, what problem do you solve? What problem does your business solve? That is why people should follow you. You are going to help them with that. Now, again, I'm a motivational speaker. I travel all over the country and I speak to a variety of industries. Not one person has ever asked me to come in and simply speak. What they are asking me to do is to help them address or solve a problem. Think about it. Most business owners, they're great at saying what they do, but they're absolutely horrible at being able to answer the question of what problem that they solve. And I share this with you to help you, as it's helped me, to be very focused on always funneling my content into solving a problem for someone else. And if this tone seems a little intense, it's because, like you, I've been frustrated at times trying to help others, and I see people get in their own way very often. And this question here, what problem do you solve, can help clarify and help get you on the right track quicker than anything else I've seen. So now that you know what problem you solve, here's the second concept. I mentioned there are two that were essential in building your presence. The second one is what you see here on the screen. I'd ask you what this looks like. If we were in a big audience, of course people say, oh, it's a pump. Well, what is this person doing here? That water is flowing because that person is priming that pump. And it's kind of a simple no-brainer, or what I call a simple truth concept, but in order for that water to flow, you have to prime the pump. So how much effort is it going to take to actually build that presence? It's going to take a lot. And if you think it's going to be easy, then you're going to be frustrated very quickly. The great painter, Michelangelo, there's a quote that he said one time that stuck with me tremendously. And he said this: if people knew how hard I actually had to work to get to where I am, it wouldn't seem so glorious after all. And I think that says a lot of truth to how anybody where you've been and how hard you've worked, and that's also a reason why you feel so fulfilled at times with something you worked hard on. And the same for me. I'm not Michelangelo by any means, but I've invested considerable amount of time to build and engage with social media. And frankly, if you're not willing to commit probably a dozen hours to really build a solid foundation so that people actually want to follow you, and you know what you're focused on, and you know what problems you're solving, and you know how you're going to help them, you're probably not going to have the results you want if you're not willing to put in quite a few hours just to build that foundation. And then once you've built it, I believe it could take 10 to 15 minutes a day on a consistent pattern to really be able to reach thousands of people. So how about that for an ROI? You got to build it, you got to prime the pump, and then it's a matter of having a consistent pattern to reach those folks that you built. So you got to know what problem that you solve, and you got to be willing to prime the pump and just put a lot of time into it. So those are the two essential concepts to really kind of just set the foundation for where we're going in now. Now, I mentioned to you there's 3 platforms. We're going to talk. The first one is LinkedIn. So let's take a deep breath. Seriously, take a deep breath. Let it out, and let's get into LinkedIn. Now, there's 3 ways to, and this is my perspective, this is the Kevin Snyder philosophy, the 3 philosophies to really connect with LinkedIn. Number 1 is you connect with others. You give to others. And then you share with others. The common denominator with all that, as you can see, is you. Most people aren't going to connect with you unless you're sharing great content. You're giving content away. You're giving them something that makes them want to connect with you. Here's an example. Here's a copy of a screenshot of my LinkedIn profile from today. You can see I've got 500 plus followers. Whoop-de-doo. Like a lot of people, they've got that. That's great. I've actually got a couple thousand. Not that that matters, but all I'm saying is you can build your connection list with good connections that are in the sandbox that you want to play in, probably within a week or 2. It should not take a lot of time. It really depends on the amount of time you want and where you go look for the right types of people. So how do you do that? How do you build to 500 to 1,000 connections on LinkedIn? Well, you have to be ready to take some action. Here's a great way to do it. I'm going to give you 3 ways of building your social presence on LinkedIn alone. You see the advanced section, and this is really some LinkedIn 101. This isn't anything that probably most people don't know, but if you're struggling to find the right types of people and really be connected with the right types of people on LinkedIn, this is an easy way of doing it. So what I did a couple years ago when I was building my social media with LinkedIn, building my followers, I went to my advanced chat there and basically just started, what are the keywords of people that I want to be connected to? So think about that for just a minute. For me as a speaker, think about some of the keywords or buzzwords. If I didn't even know a person, what those might look like. And as you can imagine, well, meeting planner, that was one. Anybody that had listed meeting planner in their profile, anybody that was in a bureau, anybody that even listed speaker or workshop facilitator. I mean, those are just some simple buzzwords. And I also, once I would connect with them, I'd make sure when I sent them a note, and again, this was focused when I was building. So when I would connect with them, I'd send them a note that wasn't the generic, I'd like to connect in, or you're a person I trust, so I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn. No, it was actually a message to them that I looked at their profile, and there was something about their profile I was interested in. I made it very conversational. And my approve rate, I guess you could say, with people that actually hit approve was significantly high. And again, I was able to build my connections very quickly in a short amount of time. Here's something else that I do, and this takes, I'll be honest, this takes some time, but it's very worth it. It's incredibly worth it. Every time I speak, I give to get, in a sense, where I'm giving a free copy of my book, which I'll give to everybody tonight. At the end, I'll give you a link that you can actually download to get a free copy of my book. And I want to give in order to basically connect with people after the fact. So here you can see, this is a quarter flyer. You can see my thumb. That's how small this thing is. It's not really that big. I put this with all my handouts when I go speak somewhere. And what you can see is a couple options for them to connect with me. Their email. They can leave a testimonial quote. I've got my social media there at the bottom in my email. So I give them a couple ways to connect with me, and usually people connect with you in a way that they are most familiar with or most comfortable with. But this is one way that I do. And so afterwards, what I do is I go back, and if they haven't put their name on it, I have another card that actually has their name, and I'll go back and I'll, one by one, send everybody an email. Hey, thanks for attending my presentation today, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is that I said I would give them, I give them. Well, then I also go into my LinkedIn, and I find them, and I connect with them. And I do it within a 12-hour window of opportunity, because otherwise they are moving on to something else, especially if they saw me speak at a conference. They saw lots of speakers at a conference. I want to make sure that they get that connecting request from me in a window where they remember me as well. This is a strategy that I did not use until about 2 years ago that I use every single time now. And my connected success with this is absolutely off the chart. And it's pretty simple. So think about this, how this might relate to what you do, whether you speak or not, whether you do a workshop or not, or in front of people. What can you give to then build your list, to connect, to get that name, to get that email, where then you can follow up with them on LinkedIn? And if your LinkedIn, if your social media isn't on your email signature, then it really should be. And so you might say, well, I don't have a book, Kevin. Okay, you're giving out a free book. That's great. Woohoo. Well, what can you give? What can you write? Can you write a white paper? Can you write a blog? Top 5 strategies to boost morale in your office. The 5 top secrets to happiness. 5 ways to save $5,000 this year while still having coffee at Starbucks. It doesn't matter. What is your craft? What is your business? What problem are you helping people solve? That is what you want to create. You want to create some sort of product or some content that people will want. And to get that, all they have to do is give you their name and their email, or it's a way for you to build your list. And this is one of my little strategies that has worked tremendously well. So this is an example of giving to get. Now here is another screenshot from my LinkedIn today, and as you can see, they always give you a couple articles or posts that they recommend for you. And sharing content is also extremely important. Both content that you find, so it's kind of like a reshare, or it's content that you write yourself. And I frequently have people that I don't use the word applaud, but they say they commend me on, you don't just share your stuff, you share other people's stuff as well. And I enjoy doing that, because if I read a good article, I would love to share it. So think here, I was given 4 options here on things that I can share. Which do you think I did? Knowing that I'm a speaker and I speak to organizations on topics of leadership and motivation and blah, blah, blah. Just by that alone, what you think I shared Jennifer Lawrence with her nudie pictures on LinkedIn? I mean, look at this. This is a top post today. Of course, I'm not going to share that, obviously. What I'm going to share is this one: why most companies never hire the perfect person for the job. So, again, what I want to do before I even share that, though, of course, I want to read it. I want to make sure it's got the content that I agree with. And I want to take a couple minutes to make a comment in that post. And then I want to share that post. I get all the time, I get traffic to my site when I post something on an article that then it makes it very helpful and effective. Just an example of what you can share. All right. Next. And if you can't tell, my battery might be looking a little low. There we go. Sorry about that. A little technical difficulty. Now, here's another great way to share content. And this is fairly new with LinkedIn. I don't know how long this has been around, but this is your way of actually writing blogs on LinkedIn. When you log in, when you're going to make a post, instead of just writing something kind of like, oh, blah, 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 you can actually click another link that actually allows you to create a blog article. And here on the right, you can see here are a couple posts that I've made recently, and each one of these at the very bottom links back to my website, and it pops up on people's feeds. So another great way of sharing content that can help other people know what problem you're going to solve that funnels back into your business. So those are some LinkedIn strategies. And just to sum up these, you have to connect with other people as you're building. You have to connect with them. We talked about that as well as the advanced approach. You have to give. Now think about what you can give that people are going to want to then connect with you about, so that they're interested in being connected to you. And then also you sharing those articles that you can share, as well as what posts that you can make. So that's LinkedIn. Now, Facebook is the second social media platform we're going to be talking about. And here is a copy of my business page. People ask me all the time, should I have a business page as well as a personal page? And the answer to that is yes. Even for me, a lot of my speaking, it's me. It's my brand. My company is Kevin Snyder. So I get away with kind of a hybrid of the two, but I still have my own speaker page. And you have to tell people if you have a speaker page too. That's where you have to invest a dedicated amount of time every single day to make sure that you are pushing, this business page. So I would recommend, once you create your page, you really want to focus on a like campaign. Like my Facebook, here, and there's a link where you can get blank content, blank info. It doesn't have to be necessarily complicated in any way. You just have to push that. And then it's like a snowball. Once people know you're liking it, and once you're posting on it, and if you're sharing information there and giving people content, kind of like what we talked about just before with LinkedIn, you got to give so that they do want to like it. Of course, your friends are probably going to like it if you ask them to like it, but what about the other thousands of people that you'll never be connected to? So think about what like campaign and what you can give for that. Here's an example of that. And I'll be honest with you, just to be transparent, I'm not the best at this. I create a newsletter that goes out about once a month. I should be doing it about once a week. And I usually include something free in there, like a free download to one of my books, maybe a special deal, a lower price for one of my books. It could be, it's really all over the place. It kind of depends on how I feel or what I think is most creative. But I post that on my business page. And you also see here, there's a way to promote it. And I'm not a big fan necessarily of this. I don't promote my page. In fact, I've not done this in a while, but that's an option too, where you can pay, for advertising in a sense. And I think depending on the type of business you have, of course, you want to do that. If you offer a special deal, if you're like a brick and mortar company, yeah, you're going to want to let people know if you have a special deal going on. Why not promote that? So for me as a speaker, I kind of stay away from that a little bit, but just know that option is there as well. But the same concept applies, and Facebook is very similar to LinkedIn. What do you you have to do a lot of the work to connect with people. What are you giving, and how are you sharing information? And many times what I share on LinkedIn, I'll tweak it a little bit, and then I'll share it on Facebook directly as well. So that's Facebook kind of quickly. When I was thinking about this presentation, I thought, well, I could talk about a lot of things, but I just want to make sure some of the essential things are taken and noted first and most importantly. Now, Twitter, this is what I use in the midst of my presentations, and I'll share with you a few little tricks here that whether you're on a stage or whether you've got wherever you're at, you can apply the same thing. Absolutely love Twitter because you're allowed 140 characters to get your point across. And most people can't, and that's why you'll see them maybe struggle with content sometimes. I'm pretty busy on Twitter. And as you can see here, here's a screenshot of my Twitter page. I don't know if this many tweets is a lot. look at your Twitter page, or if you have one, I assume you do. I don't know if I've got 2,268. That might be a lot for some people. Might not be enough. I've been told both. I've had recently one young lady I was speaking to. She goes, I would have thought you had more tweets, and I thought, okay, 2,000 is not enough. But anyway, the point is, it doesn't matter. What kind of content are you sharing as well? I usually have a couple. If I hear a great quote, I post it on there. I'll show you a couple other examples in just a second. You can see I'm not following near as many people as probably they're following me. Twitter is kind of neat because people do kind of have this cardinal rule where, hey, if I follow you, you'll follow me, and that does work. My challenge with that is when I look at my news feed on Twitter, if I had 30,000 people I was following, it'd be just nuts. I wouldn't be able to see hardly anything. So that's my personal preference. But I recommend as you build this, you want to follow people, and then they'll likely follow you back, and that's perfectly fine. In fact, when you do follow people and you're looking at their content, retweet it, and they'll see that you retweeted it, and they'll probably follow you after that. So those are some great examples. Now here's another example on Twitter of how I was giving out a free copy or e-copy of my book one day, and this actually was just a few days ago. And I used the hashtag for Think Different, which is the title of the book. But literally, they click on the link and they get a free copy of the book. So all my Twitter followers would get that. And what that does is it funnels into my, goes to my newsletter, but also funnels into my brand. And if they don't, people ask me sometimes, why do you want to give out a free copy of something? Well, why not? I'm giving. I've got several books. It's just a way for me to stay in touch with people as well. It's literally a good excuse. So here's another example. You might be wondering, I think I mentioned the word hashtag once or twice. If you don't know what a hashtag is, just go to YouTube, type up, Twitter 101 or using hashtags on Twitter, and you'll learn what a hashtag is in about 30 seconds. I use hashtags in my presentations all the time, and it's amazing how well it works because it's a way for you to track all the comments that are made in a certain type of genre or a certain cue. In this case, if you look at what I circled here, this is fantasy football. Just use this today. So if I type up the word with the number sign in front of it, that is a hashtag. Again, this is Twitter 101, but if you don't know that, then definitely go to YouTube. And here, so you can see I can reply, I can retweet, I can favorite. There's a lot I can do with that. And you can see that it's been retweeted 122 times. So that tweet actually has got a lot of traction. And what you can see here is anytime fantasy football, that hashtag is used in a tweet, anytime that's used, then it comes up on this feed. And this is just a screenshot. This went down, gosh, for quite a bit. And even since I took a copy of this screenshot, I guarantee you there's probably been a couple hundred other tweets on the fantasy football hashtag. So think about what hashtag you can create. That's the point. What hashtag can you create? And you can have multiple hashtags in a tweet. So what would get people to want to go to that hashtag, and even other people that aren't even looking maybe for your content, you post on that hashtag, they're still going to see it. Twitter is absolutely phenomenal. So here's an example of what I do when I'm on stage, when I'm speaking. I love the hashtags. I've had speakers tell me, oh, be very careful with hashtags. What if people post something and it's not nice or you don't like it? And I thought, well, you're always going to have a couple of knuckleheads. And if I look at my hashtags, and if I start seeing a pattern of just kind of weird posts or not good posts per se, or people are just bored out of their mind, then I need to be looking in the mirror. Yeah, I don't want to be afraid of what people say. I embrace that, and I want to use technology to really capture what people are thinking. How is my content resonating with them? And this should be a desire for any business. You want to know what your customers think. You want to know what people are saying. So this is one example of a slide where I asked people to connect on 9 dots with 4 straight lines. very popular thing that I do. And of course, this is the outcome. You can see how they do it. But the hashtag at the very bottom, this was a university I was recently speaking at, University of Texas Pan America. And that was the hashtag that we used for the entire hour presentation. I had hundreds of tweets to this hashtag, and it allowed me to go back and connect to other people, not only knowing what they were sharing, but also I made some retweets myself, and it was really quite powerful. I did this another time at a conference where I offered a free library, basically. I had a copy, I had all 5 of my books with me, and I was going to give the top tweeter all 5 of my books. Pretty simple. That hashtag, where I told him I'll be looking at this one, this is the hashtag you got to tweet to. The top tweeter, legitimate tweeter, is going to get a copy of every book. We had over a couple thousand tweets. It was kind of a tweeting audience, A lot of them use Twitter. Sometimes audiences don't, and that's fine too, but the ones that do, they really will. And literally, we went viral on Twitter. It was pretty cool how that conference went viral. And it was a great way for me, too, as a speaker, but also a business owner, to know what are people thinking about my product. So think about what hashtag that you can create. And by the way, you make a hashtag. Like UTPA, the one that you see here on the bottom left, that is what I just made up about an hour before I went on. Our hashtag for this is actually Savvy Mastermind. So we can just create it. And it's not that I own it either. Anybody can use it. And that's the great thing about Twitter and the hashtags. So we've talked about these 3 platforms, and I've taken about, 20, 25 minutes of time. Hopefully not much longer. There's others we could be talking about as well. You might, and I want to acknowledge, some people say, well, you can post to all 3 at the same time. You can use, platforms like Hootsuite and that, and nothing against that, but I like to be engaged on a daily basis with what is posted. I like to be current with events. Now, some things I do post in advance, and that's what Hootsuite does. It also connects. You can have your social media platforms connect. So when you post to LinkedIn, it sends it to Twitter, and then Twitter sends it to Facebook. I like to post directly. I like to make things a little unique in their own platform way. Like, for example, Twitter only allows 140 characters. LinkedIn allows a little bit more. So I might post something a little bit more in LinkedIn, but it might be something very similar. It might actually be the same article. So just a thought about that. I also like to be current with what's going on in the week. If I were to post all my tweets or my posts, on whatever platform on a Monday for the whole week ahead, I'm going to miss out on something that would have happened. So just, again, for me, this is personal preference. But I want to offer that I do acknowledge that there are some platforms out there that can do that for you. So there's a great way to keep in touch with me. To be quite honest with you, if you like anything that I've shared tonight, then what I would encourage you to do is follow me. Model some of the things that I do, or if you see me post something and you're thought, oh, that's kind of neat, then model it, steal it. Do whatever it is I'm doing, because trust me, most of these things that I'm sharing with you are things that I've seen other people do as well. So Kevin C. Snyder, that's pretty much my name on everything. I'm on Vine, and I'm on Instagram and Pinterest and all the other fun stuff like that. But since I'm talking about Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Kevin C. Snyder. And if you want to get a free copy of Think Differently, this is actually my most popular and best-selling book, and it's got a lot of great leadership examples in there. So if you're an employer or you work with teams, a lot of great examples in there about leadership and some activities. But it's to get a free copy of the book, all you have to do is text my name, Kevin C. Snyder, all one word, to the number 22828. Pretty simple. So if you're not a texter, get with the program. Or if you want a free copy of the book, just email me, and I'll be happy to give it to you. And again, my email is kevin@kevincsnyder.com. So I feel like I created some content, probably drink a little bit through a fire hose, hopefully not too much. I want to pass it back over to Christina and Kim at Savvy Mastermind, and we're going to do a little chat or see if they have any questions for me as well. So thanks so much, y'all. Appreciate it.
All right, Kevin, thank you so much. That was a great presentation, and I wrote down some notes, and I thought we could just kind of chat about it. So you can unscreen share.
All right.
Almost there. There you go. You're back with us. Welcome back. So first of all, good information. And Christina, you're still on mute. Let's see. So the first thing that I was going to say is I really love the quote at the end. In fact, I wrote it down. And the one thing that would make a really good tweet, if somebody were tweeting about this, would say the content, that the posts should be unique in their own platform way. And I really like that, because the one thing that bothers me is when people they post their tweets on Facebook, or you can just tell that they're auto doing it, and it so ruins the engagement on their social media. The other thing that I liked at the end, where you were talking about the hashtags, and I find that a lot of people new in social media, they get really confused about what the heck a hashtag is. So I like your reference about going to YouTube, but the one thing that I say is think of it like a blog category, where you are categorizing your content based on what is in your post. And so I also don't recommend that you create a hashtag out of the blue like you did, unless you're doing it for certain. I loved your example about how you were at an event and you want to easily find all the tweets in that event. That was perfect. But for normal people, you know, you just want to get found. You gave a great point on searching on Twitter and using those hashtags to search. And so hashtags really need to be relevant to your content, so when somebody else is typing in that hashtag, they can find your content. So I thought that was really good information on Twitter.
Yeah.
Christina, do you have anything else to share before I keep going? Kevin, I thought that was great. I think you definitely nailed it on sharing some practical tips for folks. I loved some of your quotes along the way. I like your philosophy, and share your philosophy that it's about building relationships and numbers, because you do hear that elephant quite a lot in social media, that it's really just about building relationships. But at the end of the day, as marketers and chief marketing officers, we are tasked with reporting that return on investment to our stakeholders, and that's about numbers. That's not necessarily about relationships, even though they go hand in hand.
Well, and if the numbers don't go up, then something's not working. So the numbers, I mean, you have to measure it some way.
That's right.
Numbers are an easy way to do it. So I think when people say, oh, you know, it's quantity versus quantity, or quality versus quantity, I thought, well, sometimes that can be used as a scapegoat kind of mantra phrase.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think
it doesn't have to be either. It should be both.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you also gave folks something to think about tonight with your question, why? That really resonated. Why should people follow? Our content has got to be meaningful and relevant to our audience, or we're going to lose them. They're going to unlike us. They're going to unfollow us, whatever the platform is, right? And so keeping that content relevant and meaningful at all times is first and foremost a critical success tool on all platforms for social media.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good.
I like the priming the pump that you also talked about. And I really appreciated that you put out there that it does take effort. When I was talking at another event, I was saying to create graphics with images and text overlay, and the guy says, yeah, but that's effort. And I'm thinking, yeah, but you're trying to grow your social media, so you have to put a little bit of energy into it. You just can't just constantly be shouting your message all the time. So one thing that I would add to prime the pump, which was, effort, it takes effort to build in the beginning, is I normally say there's like 4 stages to building your social media. The first is to get your profiles going and up proper. The second is actually to post content. Is not to go out and get followers, is to post the content. Mm-hmm. And the third is then to go out and do what you were talking about, prime that pump, try and get those people to follow you, because you need the content first, because when you're out there priming that pump trying to get people to follow you, if you don't have any content on your social media, they're not going to follow you. And then the fourth is where you were just talking about, once that foundation is built, then it's easier to engage with your community, because that's the 4th stage, and that's where you're all into community engagement and getting going. It's easier.
Kim, I would add one more to that. That is often forgotten, but very important, and that is to listen. Online, listen. Watch, like Kevin mentioned, he's learned from others. He's tried some things. Some have worked, maybe some haven't. We all do that. And so listen online. So if you're not comfortable on a platform, listen, watch. Watch your competitors. Watch people of interest to you. Watch others that you think do it well and learn what they do that works, and then try it. Don't be afraid to try. You know, they say people that are successful have always had some failures along the way. So don't be afraid to try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kim, you mentioned something that sparked a huge gap of something I should have at least mentioned is, about engagement. And with Twitter, at least, I found that there are some hashtags that I use on a frequent basis. Like I'm big on acronyms like FOMO, which stands for fear of missing out, or YOLO, which stands for you only live once. And I remember whoever owns FOMO. So if you're listening and you own the FOMO, I just want to say thank you, because when I put some unique types of quotes, and one of the hashtags in that tweet includes FOMO, they always retweeted it, and they had thousands of followers. So I made sure, I was like, oh wow, that's not just one of those hashtags that's in outer space and people just post to it. No, whoever owns it engaged. They actually, like Christina just said, they observed, they watched, they listened to see who was posting stuff that tagged them, and they would retweet. And it was pretty cool. Every time they retweeted something, I got dozens of followers from their post. And it was pretty neat. So just a tip or a thought.
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's great. And I liked how you said on Facebook, the one thing that really drives me nuts is when people say, just like my page. Well, why should I like my page? What are you going to do for me? And I'm not going to like your page. So I think that businesses miss out on that point of tell them why you're on Facebook and what should they expect there.
Right. And
don't just say, like my page. It doesn't always work. It doesn't really work at all.
It'll work for your immediate family.
That's right. Because they want to help you.
Yeah, they're like, please, would you stop begging us?
Yes. Well, great. You had some other excellent points, but I'm not going to review every little thing. You did ask on LinkedIn, there's that blog commenting ability. They used to have it for the influencers, and they just opened that up to everybody maybe 4 or 6 months ago, so it's more recent.
Okay.
It's an awesome thing to use.
Yeah.
Great.
Any parting quotes?
Thank you for joining us. If you are more interested in Savvy Social Mastermind, check out SavvySocialMastermind.com. We are here to empower you as business owners and entrepreneurs on how to embrace social media and harness social media for your own success. And Kevin, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We are most appreciative.
Live the dream, baby. Not you, but in general, yeah. So.
No, live the dream.
Good night,
everybody. Hashtag live the dream.
Good night.
Good night.